Hello world, Bettina Carey here, broadcasting live from Seattle. And it's a small world after all, and we're all in this together. And today I'm going to be having a conversation with Debi Waldeck. With no answers from modern medicine, Debi invested 30,000 hours researching while guided by intuition and faith. Debi is a genius in creating effective systems, identifying patterns, and finding solutions. When she was told to abort her son due to seen abnormalities, Debi said no. Her son was born with significant complications and was ill for 7 years. Debi identified 3 imbalances behind his ailments, and she was able to bring him to health and wholeness. He went on to receive a Congressional Nomination to the United States Military Academy, is now a captain and Black Hawk pilot, flying for the 161st in the battle at Kandahar. He is professor of military science at Auburn while studying for his MCAT. And since 1997, Debi continued her research, finding breakthroughs in individuality of blood sugar response and the secret lurking behind anxiety and addiction. Welcome, Debi. It's so great to have you here today.
Bettina, it's so great. My God, we were together a decade ago when I was at, I think, your first summit.
It would have been right up there with the first.
Right. So actually, it's kind of wild. Virtual summits. Here I am in Phoenix and you're in Seattle where I used to live.
Yeah.
And we can still do these amazing services for everybody who's watching. I'm so excited.
I know. It's going to be really great. So you're returning guest to the Women's Empowerment Summit. And I would like for folks to know a little bit more about your story. So feel free to tell me about all of your education and background, and then we'll get into your topic today.
So, in the beginning, I spent 7 years when I was told to abort my son. He had myriad of diagnoses. For every mother who's out there, or every person who's out there who has been diagnosed with, or has a child that's been diagnosed with anything from asthma, allergies, eczema, night terrors, anxiety, ADHD, respiratory airway disease. Way back then, my child had every one of those diagnoses after I had been told to abort him and I chose not to. And so for 7 years, I listened to the doctors in the beginning, and I'm not telling anybody not to, I'm just saying I did. But I got to this point, Bettina, where it's kind of like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And every couple of months, I'd go back to the doctor for another diagnosis, and I'd be giving another set of prescriptions for my son. So through that time, I began to research. And Bettina, back then, there was no credentials. Later, I went and became credentialed. But to be honest with you, the first 10,000 hours was really just a mother's desire to save her child. And doing so in a time when there wasn't a lot of support, Bettina, at all. And so, but at the end of the day, and what this topic and what we're going to be talking about at your summit is, it doesn't matter, Bettina, whether it's allergies to lupus, to fibromyalgia, to Lyme's disease, to cancer, and I can name hundreds of conditions. Bettina, every single one of them have the same common denominators of imbalance behind them, and there's just a few. So what happened was, while I was studying my son's ADHD, or respiratory airway disease, or night terrors, all the conditions, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. I was given a medication. They didn't know then that drug would affect an unborn child. I became pregnant. That's why I was told to abort. Today it says in a physician's desk reference, don't take this drug if you're pregnant, right? But the point is, all of these conditions, including autoimmune disease and more. What I kept finding, Bettina, when studying, is that there was consistently these same common denominators of imbalances. And there's fancy words for it, and I'll talk about that on Thursday without getting too technical. So there came a point when I thought, I can't fix ADHD or respiratory airway disease or anxiety or even my own Graves' disease. But what if I could address these common denominators of imbalance within the body? So that's what I set out to do. in 1997, a long time ago, 23 years, a long time ago. And when I did, this child that I had been told to abort, who was so ill, became 100% whole. And that's why the story, when you fast forward 11 years from then, from 7 to 18, for him to receive a congressional nomination to the United States Military Academy, where we have to be in perfect health, is a miracle. And so for these
Totally,
20,
it's a miracle.
it is a miracle. And that's why I do what I do, Bettina, because I want people to know that we don't need to be afraid. There's so much misinformation out there. But if we truly understood the language of our body, I have this tagline: I teach the language of the body. I teach you the language of your body. Now listen to this, Bettina, and everybody who's listening right now. I watch, especially now during COVID, there are so many summits. Everybody's working from home. We're all doing these virtual things. There's so many free summits, right? How to make money, how to be this, how to be that, right? How to lose weight, great. There's no one doing what I'm doing. And I don't mean to be immodest, Bettina, but let me explain what I mean. There's personal development I call 1.0, where pretty much all of us know about that. That was from Zig Ziglar and Dale Carnegie, and it's all about if we understand our thoughts and we change our thoughts and change our perception of our experience, we can change our world. Believe it and you can achieve it. Then there's personal development 2.0. And these are the Tony Robbins, neuro-linguistic programming. It's the secret, it's quantum physics, and it's all about, we can literally, our thoughts are things, and by affecting that, we can change the neuroplasticity of our brain, which then in turn affects what we literally are attracting. Personal development 3.0, right here with Body Mind Blueprint. That's what I do. What does that mean? What I find fascinating, Bettina, is right when we're at the precipice of this greatness, we know these amazing things about neuroplasticity and how to change our experience and change our thoughts to change our world. Why then are so many people watching these thousands of summits over and over and over again? Now, what I mean by that is what's going on also is right when we're at this moment, Bettina, where we have this knowledge. What we aren't being educated about is the fact that we are being assaulted day in and day out physically in our body by unseen forces like, and I don't mean to sound crazy, I'm speaking about things like GMOs, glyphosates, EMTs, 5G. There's so much that's going on that's physically affecting our body. And what we're not told about, which is what I have done literally for 30 years, is to look at how the body affects the mind and the emotions. There are more serotonin receptor sites in your gut than in your brain, for example. The point is that what if you could learn about the imbalances in your body that you're completely unaware of, but how that's actually truly affecting your thoughts and your emotions. Imagine two young children, one super healthy, and I'll get into this on the summit, and one is not. I'll just leave it at that for this conversation right here. But the one who is not, every experience that child has, they have more headaches, more stomach aches, more leg cramps, more this, more that. Every experience that child has is more stressful than the child who was super healthy. So wouldn't you agree that for that child, their perception of their entire experience is entirely different than the one that was super healthy? And these are things we're actually not talking about. For instance, Bettina, 23 years ago, I stood on stages. In fact, if you go back and look at the lecture from 2010 or whatever, when I did for you, if you look at that old video, I spoke about addiction, mental health and addiction being one of our biggest issues by 2020. I said this 23 years ago. I'm no psychic. People call me a health psychic. But the reason I said that is because I was understanding, again, certain things that were going on in the bodies, these physical imbalances that we're unaware of. So for example, when I made that comment about mental health and addiction, why did I say that is because 23 years ago, I was sharing with my audiences, and, you know, for people who want to know, who is this girl? Well, I published 3 books. I've spoken all across the world. I've been in every city in Australia and Canada, down in South America and here, and lectured to physicians around this conversation. But what I said 23 years ago is that one of the common denominators of imbalance goes to a breakdown in the health of the intestinal area. We know about this to some degree. We don't understand it on all the levels that it really means. And I want to talk a little bit about that on Thursday. But because of that, Bettina, your body, my body, your friend's son's body, your sister's body, and for many, many other reasons, we're not able to fully digest, for example, gluten. Again, 23 years ago, I'm saying this, not yesterday, 23 years ago. And because of that, the bits and pieces of gluten that are not fully digested, they're called peptides. So let's just call them bits and pieces for this conversation. Mm-hmm. Those bits and pieces will enter the body, enter the blood. Now we've heard the word leaky gut. Okay, well, they enter the blood, but what people aren't aware of is that they also penetrate the blood-brain barrier. These bits and pieces of gluten, these peptides called gliadin and glutenin, but they actually penetrate the blood-brain barrier, and they actually have an opioid effect on the brain. So 23 years ago, I was telling my mothers that when your child has an area, has an intestinal area that's out of balance, and here's all the early red flags and warning signs, here's how you know, and it's not just diarrhea and constipation. There's other red flags and warning signs that seemingly have nothing to do with it that tell you there's an imbalance, which you will learn on Thursday.
Yeah. On Wednesday.
Wednesday. June 10th. But the point is that when that little child is exposed to macaroni and cheese and toast and, you know, just innocent, innocuous things, we're not aware that this is 23 years ago now, that child is consistently having this effect, this opioid effect in its brain. And then what that's doing, Bettina, is that it actually affects what's called their dopamine receptors. Dopamine is the joy neurotransmitter. And so for 23 years, that child has had that impact on their dopamine receptors. And so 23 years ago, I stood on stage and said, by 2020, we would have a generation that's highly addicted, attempting to numb themselves with a flat affect.
Well, there's far too much of that. And so I cannot wait for you to be at the summit. Your topic is going to be Own Your Body. And I know that they're going to have a unique experience of you, because I know back in 2010, when you were at the summit before, I had some of my own personal benefits from learning about my leaky gut that I had going on then. And over the years, I've addressed it and then dropped it, and then addressed it and then dropped it. And of course, I just recently had an episode with my intestinal tract again. And so who was I going to call? Debi, of course, to try to sort through and figure this out. So I'm really excited about you coming to the summit and talking about this unique approach to taking care of your body. Most people, frankly, are not taking care of their body. We think we are, but we're really not. One of the things that you talked about back then, and I think is really still relevant to this conversation, is that your intestinal tract is actually outside of your body. Even though it's on the inside of the physical body, it's actually on the outside of your immune system. Am I correct in saying this? And can you?
I think you're right. It's one of the first messages in my Body Mind Blueprint program to educate people about the fact that, you know, it's kind of weird to think, but, you know, if you touch the inside of your mouth, you know, you're touching still outside your body. It's not until you get into the blood that you're inside. If you eat an apple and chew it and swallow it, it's not inside until it fully breaks down and passes that membrane, right? But here, you know, what you guys do know this. I mean, there's bits and pieces of this information out there, but 80% of your immune system is essentially outside of your body. This is the part, Bettina, that I think you kind of heard. But my God, now it is so timely. And what I mean by that is that the majority of our immune system is literally outside the body. Okay, so you're thinking about the intestines, but my point is that every mucous membrane, your eyes, your nose, your lungs, your gut, your birth canal, your anus, every mucous membrane is covered in that mucous membrane, which has a name. We'll talk about on Thursday or Wednesday. But in it, there's literally an immune system. Now, this is our first line of defense from any virus, to include COVID. Now, here's a crazy thing. Though a vaccine may be helpful, a vaccine will do nothing to affect this external immune system. Only lifestyle and diet will, and knowledge with what we're going to share. Now, if you even think, oh my God, this lady's crazy, I encourage you to go to Netflix and watch a free documentary that was filmed in 2005 called The Coming Pandemic. It's there right now. And way back in 2005, 15 years ago, because it's hard when you've been talking, I have, that this day would come, and here it is, and how afraid people are. Well, in The Coming Pandemic, it's quite interesting, but there is brilliant physicians and researchers and Nobel laureates that are interviewed in the documentary, The Coming Pandemic, in 2005, and they first define how the bird flu happened in H5N1 back then, and the fact that there would be a coming pandemic. And there's a lot of other things to it, which I encourage you to watch it. But what's crazy is that if you listen to every one of those researchers, doctors, and I'm talking about back then, the director of back then, the World Health Organization or the CDC from 15 years ago, they said the number one thing we can do for this coming pandemic is to strengthen our immune system. And they did not mean what you think of, which is what's in the blood. I am speaking about this external immune system, this thing that's a first line of defense, because how do we get sick? We either ingest or inhale a germ, period. That's how it first happens. So that part here, we don't realize there's actually an immune system there. That's the first thing they said. And number two, they said, though a vaccine would be helpful, watch it, listen to these Nobel laureates. Though a vaccine would be helpful, it never will be the full answer because their viruses are always changing. And so what they suggested is, as soon as a person would have symptoms of any kind of, whether it be the coronavirus, that immediately they begin taking an antiviral. So back in the movie, in the 2005 documentary, they're talking about like Tamiflu and they're naming it. Today, it's hydrochloroquine. But either way, 15 years ago, all these Nobel laureates and researchers are telling you what to do today. But weirdly enough, we're not being told that today. And today, look, I agree in social distancing. I agree in, to some degree, in, the shutting down of things to some degree. But I also look to Sweden, and what I realized, I just want people to really, really get this. And this is the last thing I'm going to say here, Bettina. As important as this was to do, because we couldn't overflow our hospitals, I understand that. But at the same time, by wearing these masks continuously and breathing in our own virus, by not being exposed to external, the environment to bolster our own immune system, what concerns me, Bettina, is what's going to happen come October and November and December of 2020, when the next flu season comes. And we go back into that cycle because people's immune systems are being weakened right now because they don't have a true understanding of how to strengthen what I call this external immune system.
Yes, yes. I can't wait to hear your program on Wednesday, June the 10th at the Women's Empowerment Summit. And since you've been a speaker before at the summit, can you share a little bit about your experience of being at prior summits? What's unique about us?
It's actually, I think what's super unique is that there's so many summits or anything where you go and you're the recipient, you're in the audience and you receive this information. But what I saw that's so different about what you do is that there was so much give and take, meaning the person who's sitting in the audience is not just receiving information from the stage, but they were also contributing. They were giving their own talent, their own skills. There's such an interaction that was going on. You've done something brilliant in that, where I believe that every person who walks away, whether they're just a $17 ticket holder or they have some sort of booth, the networking event was something I've not seen in other events. It's as powerful as what you've done in the Women's Empowerment Summit.
Oh, that's music to my ears. And of course, this year we're going to have our own Women's Empowerment Marketplace app to go along with the Women's Empowerment Summit. It's 8:30 a.m. until 8:30 p.m. It's a 12-hour telethon format, and we're going to be going all day. We're going to have some entertainment in addition to our speaker programs. We'll have some interactivity. Folks can still buy some open mic time if they'd like to be on the mic and share a little bit about their goods, products, and services. And as of today, we have now launched the Your Total Business Makeover package. And that is an entry for anyone, whether you're at the summit or not. We're going to give one lucky business owner the opportunity to grow their business, to launch a little bit differently, to reimagine their brand. And that's really exciting because the package is now valued at over $20,000. Anyone can enter, whether you're attending the summit or not. To get your ticket and your registration to the summit, go to women'sempowermentsummit.com, or you can also go to the Women's Empowerment Marketplace. If you'd like to be on our mailing list, go to text us at 555-888 and simply type in the word women. Again, 555-888, type the word women, and we will definitely keep you on our mailing list and inform you about all things that are coming up. And I would like you to share a little bit before you go, Debbie, about how folks can reach you, because I know you have your own books and you have websites and so on. So share how they can reach you.
You can certainly go to debiwaldeck.com. Right now, and prior to the summit, I have a free event. If you go to debiwaldeck.com or ownyourbodysummit.com, you can find that on my website or at that specific URL, Own Your Body Summit. I've interviewed 21 of the top world health influencers around these 5 common denominators behind all disease, these 5 things that are consistently behind whatever it is you think that you have. And here's the thing, if you go to the podiatrist for your heel spurs, or the psychologist for your PMS, or the the endocrinologist for your thyroid, that's great. But if you don't address these common denominators first, it's like shooting at a moving target. So I actually interviewed 21 experts. We have these really awesome interviews that run, and that's free right now. People can just go to Own Your Body Summit and get access to listening to these incredible leaders from across the world, from all different perspectives, but talking about these same things that we're not talking about. So that's an easy way to get a hold of me and let me know who you are, debiwaldeck.com. And if you were just like right now so inspired and you're like, I want to talk to this girl, we can do a discovery call by going to Call with Debi. My name is spelled DEBI, callwithdebi.com.
Fantastic.
So,
I just happen to have one of those consultations with you, and I'm feeling a lot better. I have a lot better understanding of what happened when I had my digestive issues about a month ago. And I'm looking forward to hearing not only your speech, but also to working with you in the future. Thank you so much for coming today, Debi. It's been wonderful to have you. Remember, everyone, it's a small world after all, and we're all in this together. So be safe and take care of yourself. Bye for now.
bye.